It's all about underpriced attention.
21st century.
There's
so
much
Damian, hello.
How you doing?
I have heard so much about you. Since the day David started, I've been getting tagged in on YouTube videos, Facebook posts. He brought your book first week.
He's a legend.
The first week of him starting, he says you need to read that. And I like the cover.
Thanks. I wonder, do you know the cover actually came about because it was a long story of leading up to the book, and one thing I found out about the last book I read was Fantastic Mr. Fox, so I'm not a big reader. And when it came to writing a book, I was approached by a publishing company, and they said, "Do you want to write a book?" And I was like, "No, I can't read hardly." And I went for this meeting with this guy who was the oldest man. I think he was about as old as the sun. I mean, he was so old. And he said, "What do you want to call your book?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I came up with basically F Plan B. He was like, "You can't call it that. It's not going to get in W.H. Smith's." I was like, "Mate, my book's never going to get in W.H. Smith's." Anyway, I learned then when I went into it, I started studying other people's books, and I just thought, God, they're all boring. Mm-hmm. So I just thought I'll just put something really offensive on the front. so it never gets.
You can say fuck.
Oh, can I?
Yeah.
I was going to call it Fuck Plan B, but
yeah.
then he said you can't, and I was like, I can do it. It's my book. I can do what I want. And then I just thought, actually, I probably can't do that. But I thought I'll put something offensive on it, so that way it can never get into W.H. Smith's.
What did it feel like when somebody approached you to write a book? I mean, I didn't know that bit. I mean, that must have been a feeling.
It was weird because I remember thinking it was like one of those jokes that your mates pulled. So when he said, do you want to write a book, a publishing company? And I remember thinking, no, I mean, I can't, I've never, why would you think I could write a book? So he made me go for this meeting, and he had these little tiny glasses like Scrooge. And he'd give me a lot of questions, and I'd just sort of written all the answers. And the first thing, he just looked at it, he peered over his glasses, and he just kind of went, "So for title, you've called it Fuck Plan B." And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh no, I'm in trouble.
So he also sounded a bit like Yoda.
He's so old. And then he was like, "You can't." And then he told me all of the things that were wrong with it. And by the time I was like, hang on a minute. I was like, why do I need you in the first place? I'll write my own book.
Yeah,
and
it's not your book.
Exactly.
Back off.
I'd gone from this meeting thinking, why am I going to write a book? And I was so angry. I'd left and I got on the train from London back to Brighton. And by the time I got back, I was like, well, I will write a book. Screw you, Mr. Old Man. And then that was how it started. And then I just remember sitting there with a piece of paper thinking, how do you write a book? Yeah. Like literally YouTubing everything. How do you start to write a book? That was the first thing. So, and then I got in touch with someone who writes books and said, please help me.
Yeah.
So, and that's how it came about.
How long did it take you?
Well, I'm not particularly organized. So the way I have to do things is like a baby. So I allocated every Wednesday from 2:00 until 8:00 in the evening. And that was book time. So nothing else could be booked in my diary. And that was the time that I just sat writing the book. So probably about 6 months to write it. Mm-hmm. But then you don't think about things like editing and spelling and grammar and all those things that has to go through with it, and book covers and trying to get it onto Amazon and all those other things that I never even thought about.
Yeah.
So,
and how did you, I mean, talk me through it. You've written the book, you've got your printed copies, and then what?
So my plan was to self-release it, which I did, and I just thought, I don't really know how this works, but I've been preaching about social media. The book's about social media. I can't not sell the book. So I thought, right, well, I'll just do all of the things that I preach about in the book and all of the things I believe in with social media. But there was definitely this part of me which was thinking, I really hope this works, because this is stuff that I talk about all of the time. I really hope this works. So I just did all of the things that I talk about. And then and it kind of, something went wrong with Amazon. It was supposed to come out a week later, and we were really having problems. Never published a book before. And I remember getting just a text from a friend of mine saying, "Oh, congratulations on the book coming out." And I was like, "The book hasn't come out." And she was like,
"What?"
"I just bought it." And I was like, "Oh." So I remember it was like 11 at night or 11 at night. I texted my PA and I was like, "The book's out." She was like, "Do you want me to stop it?" I was like, "No, go. Just like get everyone to buy it." So at that point it was texting everyone, getting on social media. And then for the next week, we just went on this like social media campaign. But the very next morning, we went on a rampage to try and just to sell it, and then not that it means a lot, but then it sort of you watch it go up the Amazon rankings, so all of a sudden then it goes into these different categories, and then all of a sudden it just pops up. You get number one in this category and number one in that category.
Wow.
And what's weird about it is your book is just sat in number one spot whilst like Seth Godin's book is number two, or Gary Vaynerchuk's number three, and you're thinking, this is weird.
How many screen grabs have you got with all that kind of
all of them.
Yes.
Ran out of room, and another one and another one. But it's the weirdest feeling. But the best thing was once it carried on selling, the first couple of weeks when you sell a book, you just think, I've got it, everything's all go, and then you keep promoting it. But the best bit is just people keep buying it. Just keep getting these royalty checks. I've had, weirdly enough, more royalty checks as an author than I've had as a musician.
Oh, wow. Well, so you're on to your second book.
Third book now.
Third book.
Yeah, second book came out.
Sorry.
Third book is third book is at the moment in my brain. It's in the pipeline. And when I first started working with Siobhan, who helped me write this book, she was amazing, and she said, the big book is number 4, because when you write a book, everyone goes, oh, that's really good, you wrote a book, well done you. When you write a second book, they go, oh, okay, I didn't realize this was going to be an ongoing thing. When you write your third book, people are sort of cottoned onto it, going, I see. But then when you write your fourth book, that's the point where you can just really get the numbers.
New York bestseller.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's another thing. No one tells you those things. You just go, what is a New York bestseller? Yeah. Apart from does it have to sell in New York, or does it have to sell around the world? And what are the numbers like? And the average. Do you know this is a great stat? The average number of books, or the average number of sales a book gets in its lifetime, is 200. That's the average book. That is taking every single book and then looking at it as an average. So you've got everything from Harry Potter and right the way through to someone dude who's written a book in the basement. The average number is 200 books.
Wow,
doesn't sound a lot, does it?
It doesn't sound a lot at all. So from not even contemplating writing a book to being approached to now, would you say it's a bug that you've got, or is it that number 4, that target that you're going for?
I don't know. Oh, that's a good question. I think I am going to do it just because I feel like everything in my entire life has been trying to prove somebody wrong. That's my whole life, is just going, oh yeah, well, watch this. So I feel like now I'm sort of in it. So I think I feel like I need to get to book 4 or 5, even though I've got no idea. I've got no idea what book 4 or book 5 is going to look like or be about. But I think what's weird is you start getting people asking you, so, when's your next book coming out? And then you think, I should probably write one first.
I mean, the beauty is you've already got so much going off in your life, yeah?
Yeah.
You've got, I would imagine, a ton of material about to go because of just life itself, of where you're going next with your journey. Give us a little bit about that.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Yeah, I think the main thing is trying to push myself out of my comfort zone. I think that's the thing, and especially because the sort of written stuff is so not my thing. So pushing yourself out of it and trying new things makes it more fun. So the new thing is I'm moving from where I am in Brighton to New York in the next 6 or 7 months, and I've got an idea for expanding the business I've got into America. Okay. But the big thing really is just to go there and try and crack a huge market, which I've got no idea will work or not. But
so give us a bit about your business. What is it that you do officially? To be honest with you, we jumped about 5 or 6 questions on.
Yeah, do we?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about all of this stuff last, but as it happens,
we're going reverse. This is like a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning.
So we'll go back to the beginning now. So what is it that you do?
Okay, so I am a musician. I would class myself as a musician first and foremost. So my background is in music education. In fact, my background is in mostly failing everything. So I failed my school. I failed GCSEs.
Man after my own heart.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, what makes it worse is once I failed my GCSEs, I failed all of them, and my mum made me go back and redo my GCSEs. So all my mates went off to college, and I had to resit I was the kid who had to do the year again. So I resat the entire year and I failed them all a second time. Well, I got one. So I resat them, got one GCSE. And at that point, it was obvious I wasn't going to be a lawyer. So I thought, well, I'm really into music. I was a bass player. So I told my mum I was going to be a rock star and to not worry about it. Got into a band. That started actually going quite well. Got a record deal with a small independent company. Did quite well. Then that we got signed to a major label. So when you get signed to a major label in the music industry, it's very similar to getting signed to a massive football club. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, when Man United come knocking at your door, you don't say no. Yeah. Even if you're thinking, I don't know if I'm going to sit on the bench, but you still say yes anyway. Yeah. So we got signed by this massive record label, put hundreds of thousands of pounds into it. I was 18, knew nothing about the music industry, nothing about how the business worked, just a kid in a band having fun. Mm-hmm. Didn't realise that what happens is they sign lots and lots of bands, hoping that one of them's going to break through, similar to a football team. Cool. And if you don't break through, they just drop you. So that's what happened to us. We just got dropped. Right. So I was like 19. I'd failed school. I thought I was going to be a rock star, then wasn't. So at that point, I thought, well, I don't know what to do next. So I started working in a factory, which was a shampoo factory. And I lasted about 4 hours before I just thought, this is not for me. Yeah. And just thought, look, I'm going to do whatever it takes as a musician. So then I just moved to Guildford in just outside of London. Went to college and met some really amazing people. Started my journey as a musician. Just started playing anywhere, anytime, whatever. I'll just play a gig. And then over time, if you do that, you get good at it, meet more people. Then I started getting more and more gigs, which led to more tours. And then from there, got into music education, which is where I sort of stayed, which was I helped build the college that I studied at. And then after that, left there and built a music college in Brighton with what was at the time my business partner and my best mate. We just went and built a university.
Like you do.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but at the time it was a different time, and it was very much more smaller then. So it started off where 300 students was our target, mm-hmm. and then it just kept growing. So we ended up with, now it's got 6,500 students, but
no way.
At the time it was 300 students was that was our target. I think the first year we had 200, and second year we had 400, and then every year it would just double again and again. And that was kind of my main thing, really, was education. I found that for me, I didn't enjoy going on tour. The idea of being on planes, or more importantly, I love the idea if it was, when people go, oh, being on planes. Yeah, well, it was being on buses or in vans is the reality. And so I just thought, I'm just city after city after city doing the same thing. It feels like Groundhog Day, so much waiting around. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, it's not really my cup of tea. I like doing things. So the music education side of things really worked. So, and then from there, sold that business about 8 or 9 years ago, and then started a band just to de-stress and play, mm-hmm. which turned into a sort of mini business. But the real crux of it was about 3 years ago. I thought, I need to really think about social media, because it was obviously a thing. It was obviously quite important. And I'd come from building businesses in an era where you'd advertise in magazines, in papers, on radio, maybe on TV, but you don't advertise on social media because that was what children do. And all of a sudden, it exploded. And when something goes and you just think, oh, I missed that. So I just thought, I've got two options. I either become a dinosaur, like a lot of my peers I could see around just not understanding it, and I was looking at their businesses facing this abyss, and I was thinking, or I go with it. Yeah. So I just thought, I'll start up some social media platforms and I'll just experiment and learn. And I found out that because it's such a young industry, mm-hmm. like so new, especially then, 3 years ago, even then it was so small, because it wasn't the internet, it was social media marketing in the internet. So you're looking at something which is 5 or 6 years. People will say 10 years old, but it's really come to light.
That's a really good way of looking at it. I think that's the fear, isn't it? Everybody assumes that it's the internet, and it's not.
Yeah.
I couldn't put that better myself, actually. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
And if you start combining the two together, you've got social wrong already.
Absolutely. And so then it was like, well, I need to learn. So I just started making these videos, and then this weird thing happened where people kept coming to me for advice, and I'd put myself out there as the music industry guy mm-hmm. on social media. Yeah. And then people were coming asking me about social media, and I remember thinking, oh, I'm not the social media guy. I'm the music industry guy. But people were going, no, that's fine. But tell me more about the social media stuff. And I just thought, actually, I guess because of my business background, I guess I come from a marketing background anyway, so it kind of makes sense. And then sort of just thought, well, if I'm going to go with it, now's the time. Jump in both feet and just, give it a go.
So would you say you were not forced into it, but it was a happy accident?
Yeah, happy accident. And I remember just thinking, I either shut this down and say, look, I'm not interested in social media. I'm just doing this for my own thing. Or, we're about to go into a time over the next 10, 20, 30 years when no one, all these people like Gary Vaynerchuk guessing what's happening next. Brilliant. But no one's got a clue what's happening. Absolutely. We're all looking at this thinking marketing today is very different to what marketing was even 5 years ago. And because it's so young and it's changing so quickly, all of a sudden an algorithm will change on one platform and everything will change. And all of a sudden now everyone's talking about TikTok. And then last week someone's going, oh, TikTok, yeah, but it's very hard to grow on TikTok now. And I'm thinking, it's only about 20 minutes old. And everyone's, no, Triller, that's the new thing. You got to get on Triller. And I'm like, what's Triller? Oh, it's the same thing. Yeah. And all of a sudden my brain is going, God, it's so fast. It's like when you're a kid and you go to the right club because you're cool. And then all of a sudden that club just becomes uncool for whatever reason, and it's another club. And if you're in the know, you jump onto the other club. Yeah. But if you're not, you're the uncool guy.
Would you say it keeps your interest because it changes so often? It actually keeps your interest.
Definitely, yeah. And I love that. I love the fact that I'm just I just love watching it. I find the whole thing like it's just like a Netflix series. I'm just watching it. And just watching the rise and the fall and things changing, and it's just so interesting because I think people really read in a lot to social media and how complicated it is. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's complicated. In fact, I think we're in a time now where it isn't as complicated as people make out that it is. I think a couple of years back, we were all searching for the answers. Yeah. And I was listening to one of your last podcasts, and you talked about this, and you were saying that, sometimes you have to hold people's hands with social media, and a lot of people worry about social media. And I think you're right. I think people have got to the point where they know that it's not that complicated, but they're also knowing that it's a heck of a lot of time. Yeah. And so therefore, it's not so much that I don't understand it. It's like, I haven't got time for that.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I haven't got, Gary Vaynerchuk's going, do another one, do another platform, make another thing. And you're like, I do have to eat and I do have to sleep and I have to run a business and I do have to do these other things. And so it's trying to find the most slimmed down, sort of biggest bang for your buck without damaging the business, if that makes sense. How can I make one piece of content which will do the most amount of damage instead of trying to make 300 pieces of content per day and then not actually doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing in the first place?
100%. I mean, do you have a preferred platform that gives you the biggest bang?
For me, it's YouTube. And I think everyone's different. And I think the reason why is I like long form content. Yeah. I'm probably, I'm slightly older, so therefore I will sit down for 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes and watch something and actually take it in with all of my attention. Yeah. I'm not a massive fan of Instagram, not because it's not great, it's amazing. It's just, for me, I tell musicians off for a living. Mm-hmm. And so while people are scrolling through Instagram and they're looking at great pictures of puppies or food, and then I pop up shouting at them, it doesn't really fit into that context.
I always say, to be honest with you, wherever the attention is, that's where the money is. Because with attention you can deliver so much value. Yeah. In any newsfeed, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, you have seconds. Yeah. With YouTube you have 20 minutes. Yeah. If you grab somebody's attention and it's value, great. Instagram stories, you've got 3 seconds in the newsfeed, but in the stories you can have 60 seconds. You can have longer, 2-3 minutes if you are constantly broadcasting your stories. Where the true value is in the attention, and if you've got that, you're solid. And also, some people can do that so much better than me. Like, for example, some people, you look at them for Instagram and they can get that attention in 3 seconds because you look at them and go, wow, they look amazing, or they've got that talent and they can grab your attention in 1 second.
amazing. I just, I can't do that. So therefore I have to look at my skill set and what I can bring to the table. And I can say, well, I can bring you experience, but I'm going to explain it in 10 minutes. And so that's what I do. But if you need it to be in 3 seconds, then someone else will do that. That you get people like, was it Joe Wicks who used to do those 15-second menu meals or whatever it was?
Lean in 15.
Yeah, Lean in 15. And it was like, that's brilliant. It's genius. And then someone else will say, well, that's what he does, and I'll do an hour, and other people will like that. So it's you kind of find your feet. I think if you can have a whole team of people. Like I've got a friend who actually is who was a business partner of Gary Vee, and he was like, I was in New York and I was chatting with him and I was like, oh my God, it's amazing what he does. It's like the work ethic. And he was like, it is amazing. Don't get me wrong. He is incredible. But he says, do you know how many people work for him full time? And I was like, yeah, he's got like 6 or 7 full time people. And he went, no. He's got 33 full time staff. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a lot of people. He's like,
it's a little bit of a lie, isn't it?
It's crazy. I mean, who's got 33 people to work on their personal brand? Well, Gary Vee does.
Gary Vee does. And I think this is my biggest problem. I love him to bits. And I must admit, I used to watch him before VaynerMedia.
Right.
I used to watch the Wine Club.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I signed up to his podcast at the time. He did a video podcast, and he used to do videos from his chair at Wine Library. And it used to frustrate me because it was so inconsistent.
Right.
And like, watch the next week's one. And I watched the very first time he did that video where he's doing the sales pitch about advertising on his blog.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, that's genius. It's so simple. Why isn't everybody doing it? Cold calling, you got to do it so easy. And then I must have waited 5 weeks before the next episode.
Right.
And I'm like, Gary, you're letting everybody down. So I sent him a message and he responded straight away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then I'm putting out content and I tagged Gary Vee. And I mean, this is on my Facebook page from about 8 years ago.
Wow.
And he's like, hey, Rick, yeah, I completely agree with you. And he tagged me in and the business and stuff like that. And now all of a sudden he's up here and I kind of think, I must have been asleep. Do you know what I mean? Because I was talking social all the way back then, and I'm thinking I must have been asleep all this time.
I mean, he's
gone.
He does have mad skills. I mean, just the way he speaks is so fast. Like his brain is so fast. I know. I used to say, I haven't got that much skill. I don't have that much talent. But I find I outwork most people. Yeah. I think that's a thing when you're an entrepreneur, or when you're, not saying I'm that, but when you build businesses.
I would say so. You do.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. You outwork. I mean, the things that you've done, the things that you're doing now.
And it's just work. It's just going. I'll just have to. I mean, the new thing is. I'm working on this idea. I'm working on a documentary. I thought that'd be a fun thing to do. I'll make a documentary. As soon as you come up with the idea, then it's like, right, I'm going to do it, like the book. Then you think, I'm going to fit this in because it's extra. I can't axe anything. So where's it going to go? So you just go, do you know what? I'll wake up an hour earlier, and then I've got an extra hour before I wake up. No problem at all. But I was like, you're hard pushed to outwork me. Then I saw the stuff he was doing, and I was like, oh no, I just can't physically work that fast, that hard, that intense.
Do you have a routine? Do you get up at a set time every day? You have a routine about getting your work in, all that kind of stuff?
I do, yeah. I think this is quite interesting because for most people I know, so I have this a business breakfast once a month with a bunch of other people who own businesses, and we all go there every first Thursday of the month. We all get together, about 12 of us, and we all sit down and we talk about whatever's going wrong in someone's business. We help each other out, we chat. But what I find really interesting is we're always looking for these answers of how we get the routine, how we build something, and I'm the same. I'm still looking. I'm still thinking I'm pretty unorganized. So I'm constantly looking at YouTube. How can I maximize my day? How can I get more proactive? What can I do? How can I tweak things? And I'm just as terrified of not being productive as anyone else. And I think it always comes back to the same thing, which is if I've got the passion to do something and I'm prepared to sacrifice some, time, money, effort, then it's usually the basics. It's usually I've got an iPhone, I set reminders, I put stuff in my calendar, and then it literally says, I swear at myself quite a lot on my calendar. So instead of just putting the meeting, I'll put 5 minutes before, and I'll be like, finish the meeting, dickhead. You got it. And I find that funny, and that just motivates me to just go, I've got to finish this one because I've got to start it. But I think the biggest thing for me is accountability. Yeah. So I have a PA who's amazing, and because I'm useless, I will go to a meeting and I'll sit there for 2 hours. You're not.
I know. They've been telling me, Rick, you need a PA.
It's the best thing I ever did.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, because even silly things like you go into meetings and you just chat it. How's your day? It's fantastic. And like when you got a PA who just goes, you got 20 minutes, and you go, we should start. And then 20 minutes in, it's like, you got to go. Where I would have just been like, no, it's fine, we'll get the next train. And so all of a sudden I'm getting like 3 times as much done because I'm accountable to someone who's just saying, no, stop that, you can't do that. And if you can't fit it in 20, because everything that you do, whatever that Newton's law or whatever the thing is, where you can fit the thing into whatever time you give yourself, but if you give yourself 3 times longer, it will just take you 3 times longer to 100%. Do it. I'm that guy. If you give me a day to do something, I'll do it in a day. If you give me 20 minutes, I'll just go, I'll just knock that out in 20 minutes.
Done. And it's probably to the same standard.
Yeah.
As much. Yeah. You serious, it would probably not be any better.
Yeah.
And I'm often like hard on myself, come away disappointed thinking, God, I wish I were better than that.
Yeah.
I wish I was much better at that, you know.
Do you find that when people say things like, oh, you're working really hard and you're achieving a lot, and you actually look at your own self and just go, I think I'm only on 50%. I still feel like I've got so much more.
Always.
But my brain is still going, oh, do you fancy watching that YouTube? Oh, you should go and get some toast. You know, all of a sudden I'm still in that mindset where I'm just going, I feel like I'm constantly not letting myself down, but just thinking, looking at someone like Gary Vee because of the way he's PR'd himself, and I want to be that guy. Yeah. I'm sure he's doing the same thing.
He's got to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you had 33 people around you, imagine how much you could get done in a day.
It'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Or would it be brilliant?
Yeah. That many people holding you accountable.
Yeah. But I saw, things like, I've got friends that don't even look at their own email. Like, it's just like, I say this quite a lot. Which is I stay in my lane. Yeah. So I feel like I'm quite good at achieving things that are in my lane, and then as a human being, I'm pretty terrible at most things. Yeah. So I can't cook. Like, I mean, I can't even. This is really embarrassing, but I don't even know how to use a washing machine.
Oh my god!
Like no clue at all.
Honestly,
not a clue. So
if you listen, you're a handsome fella. Okay. I would almost say we were twins.
Yeah.
If
stay in your lane, isn't it?
Stay in your lane. Yeah. I don't know how to use a washing machine at all.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
I don't iron my own clothes or anything like
that.
But
that's why you get things done.
That's it.
Because your brain is going, I haven't got time to think about those things. Yeah. So I'll just turn up with dirty trousers.
Yeah, honestly, I have a really good team around me.
Right.
And the thing that's helped me rocket, if you like, is just being completely self-aware.
Right. I agree.
I know I'm crap at this, useless at that. I'm really, really good at this. Speaking to people, getting people excited about social, understanding the art, science, and psychology behind it all. I need a David.
Yeah.
I need a Ben. I need an Abby. All these different people around me to make it all work. And that's exactly what I did.
And so therefore you're the team builder.
Yes.
Which is so important because, you can't all be the goalkeeper and you can't all be the striker. So you've got to recognize your position and just say, look, that's what I am, but I can't do everything. And that's why it works.
Yeah.
So, but I would say, going back to the question, I don't think I'm that organized, but when I've got passion for something, I'll figure it out. I'll just stay up later, go get up earlier, and I'll just sacrifice going out, and I'll just put more money into it, and I'll just write more to-do lists. I mean, I'm exactly the same. I'm like, where did I put if I can't even find my to-do list, how am I going to do the things on my to-do list? I'm writing to-do lists. I'm trying to help myself. I'm watching Matt Diavella sort of videos on YouTube, trying to get better and self-improvement. And meanwhile, I'm just the same, beating myself up, going, why can't I be organized?
Why can't I be that
person? Why am I an idiot at half this stuff? It's like everyone else. I think a lot of people are looking to other people thinking, how do they do it? And I think a lot of it is that you'll make it work if you want it that bad, and you are prepared to start and I think that's one thing. You'll probably have the same thing, is a lot of people in your team will come to you and I remember saying this a few times where you just go, just so we're all aware, I've got none of the answers either. The only difference is I'm prepared to stick a knife in it and go, that's what we're going to do. And and everyone says, okay, then I'm prepared to make that decision. But just so we're all aware, I'm just as clueless as everybody else.
I think there's like a favourite saying of mine. It's actually a Conor McGregor saying, and he's like, we're all born equal.
Yeah.
It's just that my work ethic is different to yours.
Yeah.
you know, and that's really, really true.
Yeah.
You know, I sacrifice a lot to make my unorganizedness work. I sacrifice my time. I have 4 kids at home, actually, which is a lot. So I work till my cut-off point is around, I would say, Monday to Friday, around 7 o'clock. I got to go home. I got to see the kids and the wife and all that kind of stuff at some point. But I'll sacrifice. I got up at 5:30.
Right.
Rather than going home at 9, 10 o'clock at night, I'll sacrifice that time because they don't need me or whatever it might be, so that I can get stuff done, just to get through things, and purely because of maybe my lack of skills elsewhere, really. But it's only me that goes without, not anybody else. And
that's the passion, isn't it? You go, but I want it. So therefore, what can I do to get it?
I struggle to sleep because I want it that bad.
Right.
You know, it becomes a strange but healthy obsession.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to YouTube, that's your chosen tool, if you like. Is there any sort of tricks, skills, thing? Because I'm a late adopter of YouTube. Always had a YouTube channel, never took it seriously. I'm probably at around 20 views per video right this moment in time.
That's 20 more than a lot.
It's a start, okay? So I'm not shy, nor am I embarrassed of it. You'll be at this stage where you're actually able to use YouTube as a bit of a social media tool now. With the things that they've implemented, you've got probably the subscriber base that allows you to put out posts, I would imagine, now. So again, you know, how's that impacted things?
It's amazing. And do you know what? I would urge anybody to take YouTube seriously. And I think the reason is because it's harder than most, or not harder, that's the wrong thing, but because I think it feels harder than a lot. Long form content, to do it well. And I'm constantly learning about YouTube. Every day I'll put out a new video, or every other day I'll put out a new video, and I'll learn something from it. And I'm constantly watching other people, and I'm watching the YouTube algorithm shift, or not even the algorithm, just watching the trends shift and going, oh, if he does that, and that's a thing now in YouTube. And this, you know, it was clickbait, and then it was slightly less clickbait, and just things are changing constantly. But what happens is, the hardest thing to do is get 100 subscribers. That's the hardest thing. But when you get to 1,000, this weird thing happens where YouTube you get 999 subscribers. You hit that 1,000, and YouTube goes, oh, okay then. And it kind of opens the door a little bit. And all of a sudden, I remember taking me a year to get to 1,000 subscribers. And then I got to like 1,100 in about 3 weeks. And I'm thinking, how did that happen? It took me a year to get to 1,000. And now I've got an extra 10% in 2 or 3 weeks. But I think YouTube starts to just open the door a little bit more. You know, when you get to 1 million, not that I'm there, but when you get to 1 million subscribers, getting to 2 million, easy, no problem. YouTube is throwing you out everywhere. So the hardest part is that first sort of 1,000 and getting the view, and it's more about the views than it is the subs. But you know, all of a sudden you hit momentum. YouTube is very different to a lot of the other platforms in the way that if you can keep that momentum going, it will really fight for you.
So is it consistency?
Yeah,
with YouTube, would
definitely
you say?
Consistency. And
do
also,
you have top 3 or 5 things that you would say that, you know, people now wanting to get on board with YouTube must be doing right now?
Yeah. So the main thing with YouTube, I would say, is people say you can't grow on YouTube anymore. It's nonsense. There's more people on it. You do have to innovate a little bit, but the big thing with YouTube is to follow some trends. And so on YouTube, for example, a big trend is instead of explaining what happened and saying, I'm going to teach you something, which we've had for the last 10 years, now it's, I'm going to show you how to do something. So if you're saying, I did this and this is what happened, then people say, oh, I'll watch that because I'm now invested and I'm going to give you my 5 or 10 minutes. If you just say, I'm going to explain, it's like, oh, I've seen these videos time and time again, it's a bit boring. So you're seeing the rise of a lot of YouTubers like Mr. Beast, who are taking things to a whole new dimensional level of saying, this is what I did this, and let me show you the results of it. So that's a big thing. But playing the YouTube game, the thumbnail and the title are really important. So when you start doing YouTube, you say, well, I want to make a video on this. And so you make it, you take a still of the video and you put the title in. Whereas if you can think about the title first, so you're not thinking of anything apart from the title and what's going to work on YouTube. So for example, if I if I made a video of how to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, there's the title, rather than, growing on YouTube. It's too vague.
So you just think about how people might search for that particular question, and you answer it in the title.
Yeah, and you can do the research. Go and find the videos that you like and see the title, and then think, right, how can I make that title a tiny bit better, the thumbnail a tiny bit better, but the video much better? And you can get people to watch your videos. That's when it grows fast.
Listen, I could sit and talk to you for hours. I've not even got to the questions yet. That's literally as it is. I've not really got to the questions yet, and David's giving me the 5 minutes.
Okay.
We've got a job interview to do. So listen, how can people find you? How can they get hold of you, follow you, engage with your content?
So the other thing, the last tip I would say on that, and this is why for this is, if someone comments on any platform, you comment back. Instead of comment with a thank you or a yes, you comment with a question back again. Because if you shut someone down with a statement, they'll go. Whereas if you ask them a question, they'll add another question. So therefore, you're constantly trying to get people involved in it. And so every piece of content, or every question, every DM, every comment that comes through to any of my platforms comes straight through to my phone. So anything with my name in it, Damian Keys, Instagram, Damian Keys 1 or Damian Keys, you'll find me. YouTube, Damian Keys, Twitter, Damian Keys. It's just really, really crucial, because that's the fastest way you grow. You look after people like they've never been looked after, and they'll tell everybody, and it's very quick to grow.
That's brilliant.
Cool.
Brilliant. Listen, tell us how we can get all of you. Damian Keys, everything.
Damian Keys, everything. If you can spell it DAMIANKEYES, come and find me. Come and say hello.
It's been a pleasure.
Dude, thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Love it.
Yeah.